I paid $4,600 for a private aquarium birthday experience for my daughter. When we arrived, the welcome screen said, "Happy 9th birthday, Mason, my brother's son." Dad shrugged. He'll enjoy it more than she would. My daughter whispered, "It's fine, Dad. We can just watch from outside." I took her hand, walked out, and canceled every upgrade I had paid for. By midnight, my brother had called 39 times. The digital welcome screen above the aquarium entrance was 4 feet wide and backlit in blue, and it said, "Happy 9th birthday, Mason," in white letters that scrolled slowly across a jellyfish animation. My daughter Iris was holding my hand. She was wearing the purple dress she had picked out 2 weeks earlier for today, the one she had tried on 3 times before deciding it was the right one. She had a handmade invitation in her jacket pocket, blue construction paper with crayon jellyfish and glitter on the tentacles, the same design she had drawn 15 times at the kitchen table and handed out to every kid in her 3rd grade class. The invitation said, "You're invited to Iris's aquarium birthday," in her careful block handwriting. She looked up at the screen, and her grip on my hand tightened. She read the name twice. Her lips moved both times. "Mason is my brother Keith's son. He is also 9. His birthday is in March." It was July. My father Lester was already inside the lobby, standing next to Keith and Keith's wife Paige and about 15 children I did not recognize. Not one of Iris's classmates was there. The kids she had handed invitations to, the ones who had told her they were excited, none of them had come. Lester had a visitor lanyard around his neck. He was smiling. He saw me through the glass doors and waved. And then he registered my face, and the wave slowed down and stopped with his hands still in the air. I walked inside with Iris. She stayed close, her shoulder pressed against my arm, the invitation crinkling in her pocket. She was scanning the lobby for Chloe, for Aiden, for any of the 15 faces she had invited. There were none. "Dad, why does the screen say Mason?" Lester shrugged, one shoulder. The shrug of a man who has already decided the conversation is beneath him. He'll enjoy it more than she would. "Keith's got his whole crew here. Mason's been talking about it all week. It just made more sense." I looked at the 15 children in party hats. "Where are Iris's friends?" "She invited 15 kids. Lester waved his hand. "You gave me the RSVP list when I offered to help confirm the headcount. I called every parent on it last week. Told them the party had been rescheduled. Then I replaced the guest list with Mason's classmates. He had taken the list I gave him in good faith, called every parent of every child my daughter had personally invited, lied to them, and filled the room with someone else's friends." I looked at Iris. She had figured it out. Her eyes moved from the party hats to the unfamiliar faces to the empty space where Chloe should have been standing. Lester stepped closer and lowered his voice, but not enough. Keith and Paige were 3 feet away. The children were everywhere. She is one child from a broken home, Dominic. Mason has both his parents. He has friends. He has a full life around him. She would have stood in the corner the whole time, being too shy to talk to anyone. I did this for her as much as I did it for Mason. He said it in the lobby, in front of Keith, in front of Paige, in front of 15 children holding aquarium maps and wearing party hats. He said it about a girl who was standing 3 feet away from him in a purple dress she had picked, because she thought today was her day. Keith looked at the floor. Paige looked at her phone. Neither of them said a word. I looked at Iris. She was staring at the welcome screen with the careful stillness I had learned to read over 5 years of raising her alone. It was not anger. It was the quiet of a child who has learned that protesting inside this family costs more than absorbing. She tugged on my sleeve, pulled me down to her eye level, and whispered it. "It's fine, Dad. We can just watch from outside." That sentence hit somewhere behind my ribs and stayed. A 9-year-old should not know how to give up that quietly. She should not have the vocabulary for it. I straightened up. I took her hand. I walked to the front desk. "My name is Dominic Reeves. I booked a private birthday experience under confirmation number BR427. I need to cancel every upgrade on this booking." The coordinator pulled up the account. She looked at the screen, looked at me, looked at the party already assembling in the lobby behind me. Mr. Reeves, the upgrades include the behind-the-scenes tour, the interactive feeding session, premium catering for 30 guests, the photographer package, and the personalized welcome display. Some of these are past the refund window. Cancel everything refundable. Void the rest. I do not want any service on this booking delivered today. Keith was behind me now. His voice had the controlled panic of a man watching his son's party disintegrate in real time. Dom, come on. You can't just cancel. There are 15 kids in there. Mason is already wearing the birthday hat. There are 15 kids in there for a party I did not invite, and a child whose name is not on my booking. My card is on this account. My name is on the contract. The coordinator confirmed the account holder. She processed the cancellation line by line while I watched. The behind-the-scenes tour and interactive feeding session had not started yet, but same-day cancellation meant forfeiture of the booking deposits. $1,200 for the tour, lost. $800 for the feeding session, lost. Catering returned 60% because the food had not been set out yet, meaning $840 came back and $560 was gone. The photographer fee was non-refundable and voided, meaning no photographer would arrive. The welcome screen charge was lost. I also canceled the $400 private room reservation. Non-refundable, but I released the space. Not one service I had paid for would be delivered to a room full of children standing where Iris's friends should have been. The screen above the entrance went dark 30 seconds after the coordinator pressed enter. Where Mason's name had been, there was now a blank blue glow. 15 children standing in the lobby watched it go dark. One of them tugged on Paige's sleeve and asked what happened to the birthday sign. Keith stepped closer. His jaw was tight, and his voice was low enough that only I could hear it. Do you understand what you are doing? My son has friends here. They brought gifts. There is supposed to be a catering table and a tour guide meeting us in 10 minutes. There is no tour guide. There is no catering table. My name was on those contracts. My card paid for them. And my daughter's name was supposed to be on that screen. Dad said he arranged all of this. Dad arranged nothing. Dad called a venue he does not have an account with, changed a name he had no authority to change, and invited people to a party he did not pay for. Every dollar came from me. You can check with the front desk. Keith did not check with the front desk. He already knew. He had always known. The beach vacation, the kitchen appliances, the birthday. Keith's role was never the architect. Keith's role was the man who stands next to the gift and smiles when someone says thank you. Keith watched the screen go dark. His face shifted from panic to something harder. You are really going to ruin a 9-year-old's party because your feelings are hurt? My daughter's feelings are the ones that got hurt. In the lobby, in front of everyone, by our father. And your son's party is not ruined. Your son can still walk through the aquarium with general admission like any other family. He just cannot do it on my credit card. I took Iris's hand and we walked out. She held my hand the whole way to the truck. She did not cry. She climbed into the back seat, buckled herself in, and pulled the crumpled invitation out of her jacket pocket and smoothed it flat on her knee. She traced the crayon jellyfish with her fingertip, and then she looked out the window at the aquarium entrance where the welcome screen was now empty. Can we get pancakes? We got pancakes. She ordered the ones with the whipped cream face, and she ate every bite, and she did not mention the aquarium once. She is 9 years old, and she has already learned how to set a wound aside and eat breakfast. I sat across from her and drank my coffee, and I decided that nobody in my family was ever going to teach her that lesson again. If you are new here, welcome to Family Secret Tales. What I am about to tell you is the rest of what happened after the pancakes, and why 39 calls from my brother went unanswered that night. I need to go back a few years. My ex-wife left when Iris was 4. The marriage ended for reasons that were real and mutual, and I am not dragging her into this. She moved to Portland for 2 years, then came back to the area to share custody. We alternate weekends. Iris lives with me during the week. For the first 2 years, I did it completely alone. Since her mother returned, I have remained Iris's primary weekday parent. Every morning I make breakfast, pack her lunch, drive her to school, drive to work, pick her up, cook dinner, help with homework, read before bed. On weekends, when she is with me, I take her to the library and the park and sometimes the dollar theater that still shows matinees. It is not glamorous. It is not the life my father imagined for his son. But it is mine and it is hers, and I have never missed a school play or a parent-teacher night, and on every night she is under my roof. I am the person who reads before bed. My job as a procurement analyst at a regional hospital system pays enough that I can afford to give Iris a good birthday. Last year it was a pottery studio where she made a lopsided mug and brought it home and put her toothbrush in it. The year before, a planetarium sleepover where she fell asleep under a projected sky and told me the next morning that she had dreamed about Saturn. This year she wanted the aquarium. She had been reading about jellyfish since January, and she had checked out the same library book 3 times because it had a page about moon jellies that she had memorized. She told me she wanted to see one close enough to count its tentacles. She said it at dinner one night, stirring her mac and cheese, not looking up, the way she always delivered the things that mattered most to her, quietly, as if she was testing whether the world would let her have them. I called the aquarium the next morning and asked about private birthday experiences. The booking cost $4,600, paid in full 6 weeks before the date. Base venue reservation fee for the private party room, $400. Behind-the-scenes tour, $1,200. Interactive feeding session where Iris could feed the rays and the small sharks, $800. Premium catering for up to 30 guests, $1,400. Professional photographer, $600. Personalized welcome screen with her name in glowing letters, $200. I paid it on my credit card and saved the confirmation in a folder on my phone labeled Iris 9th. I also printed a copy for the refrigerator so Iris could see the date circled. Lester had offered to hold the printed confirmation while I helped Iris address her invitations one evening. I handed it to him without thinking. The booking number, my name, and my card's last 4 digits were all visible on the first page. Iris made the invitations herself. 15 of them, over 3 evenings at the kitchen table, with the overhead light buzzing and glitter glue, leaving small green flecks on her forearms. Blue construction paper, crayon jellyfish, glitter on the tentacles. She drew each jellyfish separately, so every one was slightly different. She wrote each classmate's name on the front in block letters, pressing hard enough that the crayon left grooves on the back. She handed them out at school on a Monday morning and came home walking faster than usual, which is how I know she is excited, because Iris does not announce excitement, she accelerates. She told me her friend Chloe said it was the best invitation she had ever gotten. Then she said a boy named Aiden asked if he could keep the jellyfish drawing, even if he could not come. Iris said yes. She smiled when she told me that, a full, unguarded smile. She does not give those away often. She is quiet and careful, and she watches rooms before she enters them, and when she smiles fully, it means something got past the wall she built when her mother left, and she decided the world required monitoring. I kept one of the extra invitations on the refrigerator, held by a magnet shaped like a starfish. My father Lester retired 4 years ago from a school district administrative office. He is 62 and he runs the family the way he ran his department, with delegation, hierarchy, and a clear sense of who matters and who is merely useful. I am useful. My brother Keith matters. Keith is 32, married to Paige, works in insurance sales, drives a truck he refinanced twice, carries a golf membership he uses every other weekend, and has a son named Mason, who is 9 and loud and confident and loved by my father in the uncomplicated way that boys from unbroken families are loved by men who believe unbroken is the only acceptable shape. Lester has never said out loud that he ranks Iris below Mason. He says it in structure. At Thanksgiving, Mason sits at Lester's right hand, close enough to be handed the first roll from the basket. Iris sits at the far end of the table near the kitchen, where the vent blows cold air onto the back of her neck and she has to fold her napkin into her collar to keep warm. When Keith's family pulls into the driveway, Lester stands from his chair and walks to the front door and opens it before they knock. When I pull up with Iris, Lester nods from wherever he is sitting and says, "You made it," as if our presence was optional and slightly surprising and marginally inconvenient. One Christmas, Iris drew Lester a picture of a jellyfish. She had colored it carefully in purple and blue, and she had written for Grandpa at the bottom in her block letters. Lester looked at it, said that's nice, and put it on the counter behind the coffee maker, where it sat for the rest of the evening. When we left, the picture was still there, partially covered by a paper towel roll. Mason's school photo was on the refrigerator, centered, held by two magnets. 18 months ago, my parents' kitchen needed new appliances. The stove was 2 decades old, and the refrigerator seal had been failing for months. I bought replacements. $1,800 on my credit card. I had them delivered on a Saturday, and I stayed to help the installers level the refrigerator. Lester watched from the doorway and said, "Looks good." That evening, he called his sister Gloria and said, "Keith took care of the kitchen for us." Good kid. Gloria told me this 8 months later at a family lunch casually while complimenting Keith's generosity. I sat there with a piece of chicken going cold on my fork, and I said nothing. I told myself it did not matter who got credit. 3 years ago, I booked and paid for a beach vacation rental for the whole family, $3,200 for a week. Lester told the extended family that Keith had arranged it. Keith accepted the praise at the dinner table without blinking. He thanked Aunt Gloria when she brought it up, as if the booking confirmation had his name on it. Gloria told me later, "Your brother really stepped up with that beach house. You should be proud of him." I swallowed it. I told myself family was more than receipts. What I should have told myself was that receipts are exactly how you know who paid and who lied. My Aunt Gloria is Lester's older sister, 59 years old. She has hosted Thanksgiving at her house for 30 years. She speaks in short sentences and she does not repeat herself. She was the one person in the family who always asked Iris how school was going and then stood still and waited for the answer even when the answer took 40 seconds to arrive, because Iris needed 40 seconds to decide if the person asking was safe. When Iris was 6 and too shy to answer at all, Gloria knelt down in the hallway at Thanksgiving and said, "You do not have to talk, sweetheart. You can just wave." Iris waved. Gloria waved back. From that point on, every family gathering started with Iris waving at Gloria first. It was their thing. Nobody else in the family noticed. I noticed. The night of the aquarium, Keith called 39 times. I know because I counted the notifications the next morning while making Iris scrambled eggs. 39 calls, 11 voicemails, 14 texts. The calls started before we reached the pancake restaurant. By mid-morning, it was the parents are asking where the food is. By noon, it was "You ruined Mason's entire day." By evening, it was "Dad is furious, and it is your fault." The last text arrived at midnight, "You are dead to this family." I did not respond to any of them. I was sitting on Iris's bedroom floor, reading her a chapter of a book about marine biologists while she fell asleep with her hand resting on a stuffed octopus she had named Pepper. Her purple dress was draped over the desk chair. The crumpled invitation was on the nightstand, still showing the crayon jellyfish. I read until her breathing slowed, and then I sat there for another 10 minutes in the dark, and I listened to the quiet of an apartment where nobody was going to tell my daughter that her birthday belonged to someone else. The following week, I did what I do for a living. I audited. I sat at the kitchen table after Iris went to bed, and I pulled 3 years of credit card statements, Venmo records, and email confirmations. Every family-related payment went into a spreadsheet. Beach vacation rental, $3,200. Kitchen appliances, $1,800. Car repair for Lester's sedan. A brake job I paid for 8 months ago when Lester said Keith was supposed to handle it, and Keith never did, $600. Aquarium birthday, $4,600. Total payments I had made for things my family was told Keith provided, $10,200. Then I found the email. Iris uses a family iPad for homework and reading apps. The iPad was still linked to my parents' shared email because Lester had set it up 2 years ago when he gave it to Iris as a Christmas gift. I had never opened the mail app. That week, while clearing storage, I opened it to log out and saw an email Lester had sent to the Aquarium's event coordinator 10 days before the birthday. Subject line: name change for booking BR 4427. The body read, "Hi, this is the grandfather for the birthday booking under Dominic Reeves. We need to change the birthday child's name from Iris to Mason. Same date, same time. Also adding 15 guests to the party list. The family coordinator approved the changes. Thank you." Family coordinator. He gave himself a title. He emailed a venue where my name was on the contract and my credit card was on file, and he changed my daughter's birthday to my nephew's birthday and signed it as the family coordinator. The event coordinator had treated possession of the booking number and my name as sufficient verification and never called me to confirm. I took a screenshot. I saved it. Then I closed the iPad and sat in the kitchen with the light off for a long time. I almost deleted the screenshot. I almost told myself that Lester was confused, or that he meant well, or that the email was just an old man trying to make his other grandchild feel included. But the subject line said name change. Not addition. Not can we add Mason to? Name change. From Iris to Mason. A substitution. My daughter was not being included. She was being replaced. And the man who did it signed the email as the family coordinator, a title that does not exist, invented for the purpose of taking something that was not his. If you have been following family secret tales, you know what happens when receipts exist and silence runs out. The person who pays stops being invisible. I called Gloria the next day. I told her I had paid for the beach vacation. She went quiet for several seconds, and then she said, "Lester told me Keith wrote the check. I have the receipt, Aunt Gloria. I can send it. Send it." I sent the beach house receipt, the kitchen appliance receipt, and the aquarium confirmation with my name and card number on it. Gloria called me back in 20 minutes. "How long has this been happening?" "At least 3 years. "And you let him do it?" "I thought family was more than receipts." "Dominic, receipts are the only thing that tells the truth when the family will not." That same week, I ran into Paige at the grocery store. She was holding a bag of apples and she looked tired. She said something that confirmed the last piece. "Keith has been so generous with your parents lately. The kitchen, the beach trip, all of it. I keep telling him we need to watch our budget, but he says family comes first." She believed it. Keith had not just accepted credit in front of the extended family. He had carried the lie home and built it into his marriage. I almost corrected her right there between the lettuce and the strawberries. But Iris's invitation was in my jacket pocket. She had slipped it in that morning because she said it made her feel brave. I touched the folded paper through the fabric and I stayed quiet. The truth was coming. It would arrive through receipts, not produce aisles. 3 weeks after the aquarium, Lester showed up at my apartment. He knocked twice and stood in the hallway with his hands in his pockets and the expression of a man who had come to close a file. "This has gone far enough, Dominic. Let's put it behind us. Come in." He sat at the kitchen table. I sat across from him. The spreadsheet was printed and sitting under a folder. But before I could open it, Lester leaned forward and spoke. "I did what I thought was best for this family." He folded his hands. "Keith needed the wins more than you did. You have always been fine on your own. You have your apartment, your routine, your job. Keith needs the family to see him a certain way. His marriage depends on it. I was not trying to hurt Iris. I was trying to hold everyone together." He said it like a summary, like a performance review he had rehearsed in the car. Keith needed the wins, as if wins were currency you hand to one son by taking them from the other. As if my daughter's name was an acceptable cost of Keith's self-image. "You were not trying to hurt Iris," I said. "You changed her name on a welcome screen in front of 15 people and told me she would be too shy to enjoy her own birthday. You called her a child from a broken home." In the lobby, 3 feet from where she was standing, I said what I thought was, "You said she is one child from a broken home who would have stood in a corner being too shy to enjoy her own birthday. You called her classmates' parents and told them the party was rescheduled so you could fill the room with Mason's friends. She was looking for Chloe in that lobby. Chloe was not there because you made sure of it. You canceled her guest list, changed her welcome screen, and told me you did it for her. You did it for Keith. You did it for Mason. You did it for yourself. And you did it with my money. Lester's jaw tightened. He unfolded his hands and gripped the edge of the table. I opened the folder. You told the family Keith paid $3,200 for the beach vacation. Here is my credit card statement. I placed it on the table. You told Gloria that Keith took care of the kitchen renovation. Here is the $1,800 charge on my card. Another page. You told everyone the aquarium party was a surprise you arranged for Mason. Here is the $4,600 confirmation with my name on it. Another page. Here is your email to the aquarium, sent from the family iPad, requesting the name change from Iris to Mason and adding 15 guests. You signed it as the family coordinator. The screenshot went on top. That is $10,200 over 3 years that you took from me and handed to Keith. You did not steal money. You stole credit. You let another man wear my receipts. Lester stared at the pages. His right hand released the table edge. His left hand dropped to his lap. His breathing shortened and his shoulders curved inward, and his eyes moved from the spreadsheet to the email screenshot and stayed there. His mouth opened once and closed. His face carried the expression of a man who has just discovered that the door he always left open was never his to open. She drew 15 invitations by hand with jellyfish on every one. You gave her party to a boy who did not know it existed. Lester pressed both palms against his eyes. His elbows were on the table and his spine was curved, and he held that position for a long time without speaking. When his hands came down, his eyes were red, but he was not crying. He was computing, looking for a negotiation. But the receipts were on the table and they did not negotiate. He tried 4 things. Each one failed. The first was a bargain. What if I pay you back? I can write you a check for the aquarium and we can call it even. He reached toward his jacket like he was going to pull out a checkbook. This is not about $4,600. This is about $10,200 in credit you stole from me and gave to Keith over 3 years. A check does not fix a pattern. The second was a redirect. Keith did not know. He thought I was handling it. He is not the bad guy here. Keith accepted thanks for a beach vacation he did not pay for. He told his own wife he paid for the kitchen. Keith knew exactly what he was accepting. He just did not care where it came from. The third was a guilt play. His voice dropped low, the way it always dropped when he was about to invoke sacrifice. I kept this family together for 30 years, Dominic, after your mother's health problems, after your divorce. I held everything in place. And this is how you repay that? You held everything in place with my money and Keith's name. That is not holding a family together. That is running a business with one employee who does not know he is on the payroll. The fourth was silence. He stared at the table and said nothing for 15 seconds, waiting for me to fill the gap the way I had always filled gaps in this family, with compliance or with a check. I did not fill it. I am not paying for Keith's image anymore. No more car repairs. No more checks for his insurance gap. No more vacations that someone else gets thanked for. This is the last dollar I spend in your direction. And you spent the last one at an aquarium on a Saturday morning, and you put the wrong name on the screen. Lester left without closing the door. He sat in his car in the parking lot for several minutes before starting the engine. I watched from the window. He gripped the steering wheel with both hands and looked straight ahead at nothing. 2 weeks later, Gloria hosted a family cookout at her house. Burgers on the grill, paper plates, the same folding table she had used for 30 years. 12 family members were there, including 2 cousins from out of state. Lester was there, sitting in a lawn chair near the fence, quieter than usual. Keith and Paige were not. Paige had told Keith she needed space before she could be in a room with the extended family. I came with Iris. Gloria hugged her at the door and Iris waved, their old greeting, and Gloria waved back and said, I saved you a seat next to me. Halfway through the meal, one of the out-of-state cousins, a man named Roger who I had not seen in 2 years, mentioned the beach vacation. That beach house Keith got for everyone a few years back, that was something. We should do that again. The table went quiet. Gloria looked at me. I looked at my plate. Gloria set her fork down. Roger, Dominic paid for that beach house. Dominic paid for the kitchen appliances. Dominic paid for the aquarium birthday that got switched to Mason without his permission. I have seen the receipts. Roger looked at me, then at Lester, then back at Gloria. I thought Keith, everyone thought Keith. That was the arrangement. Lester stood up from his lawn chair. His mouth opened. Gloria raised one hand, palm flat, and said, "Sit down, Lester. You have said enough for 3 years." He sat down. The cousins looked at their plates. One of them shook her head slowly. Iris was sitting next to Gloria eating a burger, and she did not look up. She did not need to. The room had shifted, and she could feel it the way children feel weather changing. And she kept eating because Gloria was beside her, and Gloria had always been safe. That was the public humiliation. No shouting, no scene, just a correction at a folding table with paper plates. Spoken by a woman who had been thanking the wrong person for 3 years and was finished doing it. Paige found out on her own. She had gone looking through their bank statements for the beach vacation charge after the aquarium incident raised questions she could no longer ignore. The charge was not there. The kitchen charge was not there. None of the charges were there because none of the payments had ever come from Keith's account. She asked Keith one evening, clearly and without warmth, where the money had come from. Keith sat across from her at their own kitchen table and said it was complicated. Paige said finances are not complicated. They are numbers. She asked if Dominic had paid for everything Keith took credit for. Keith looked at the table and did not answer for long enough that the silence filled the room like water filling a hull. Paige called me that evening. Her voice was steady and tired. She said, "I am sorry, Dominic. I praised him for your money. I did not know." I told her she had nothing to apologize for. She said, "Someone does." She did not say Keith's name for the rest of the call. A week after the cookout, Gloria called Lester directly. She told him Thanksgiving would still happen at her house, but he would not be hosting the prayer and he would not be sitting at the head of the table. "You lied to my face for 3 years," she said. "I am not doing that again." The aquarium's event office sent a formal notice to the family account. The unauthorized booking modification had been flagged during their review, and future reservations associated with the account would require direct cardholder verification. The venue had learned the same thing I had. Lester used any door that was left unlocked. 5 weeks after the aquarium, Lester called. His voice was rehearsed and steady. "I am sorry things went this way. I want to move forward, but I need you to let Keith keep the credit for the beach vacation. Paige already told her family he paid for it. If the truth comes out, it will embarrass him. An apology with a clause attached." I almost responded. I almost told him I would let it go if he would just apologize to Iris directly, in person, with her name on his lips instead of Mason's. But the condition told me everything. He was not sorry for what he did. He was sorry it had become visible. I hung up. I walked to the refrigerator, took down the stack of family photos from gatherings Lester had narrated with Keith's name on my money, and I put them in a drawer. I took one of Iris's invitations from the kitchen counter and taped it to the refrigerator where the photos had been. Blue construction paper, crayon jellyfish, glitter on the tentacles. Her name. 6 weeks after the aquarium, Lester sat at his own kitchen table with a blank birthday card. The card had a cartoon jellyfish on the front. He had bought it at the pharmacy on his way home. He opened it to the blank inside and wrote "Dear Iris," and then the pen stopped. He held it over the paper. He put it down. He picked it up and wrote "I," and then he put the pen down again and closed the card and pushed it to the edge of the table next to the salt shaker. He did not open it again. By September, Lester ate dinners alone. Keith and Paige were in what Paige quietly called a conversation about honesty that had been going on for weeks. Gloria had not called Lester in 20 days. The family photos in his living room showed gatherings that no longer existed, funded by a son who no longer answered, celebrated by people who now knew who had actually paid. On a Saturday morning in late September, I picked Iris up from her mother's house and drove to the aquarium. Just the two of us. Basic admission. No upgrades. No catering. No photographer. She wore the purple dress. She carried the invitation in her jacket pocket the way she always did. When we walked through the entrance, the welcome screen showed the aquarium's standard animation. No name, no birthday message, just jellyfish drifting across a blue background. Iris looked at the screen for a moment, and then she reached into her pocket and took out the invitation and opened her journal and taped it to the inside cover. Crayon jellyfish, glitter, her name in block letters. She closed the journal and held it against her chest. Ready? We spent 3 hours watching jellyfish. She counted the tentacles on a moon jelly and told me there were 24, which matched the number in her library book, and her face lit up the way it only lights up when something she read turns out to be real. She pressed her hand against the tank glass, and a ray glided past, and she whispered, "It sees me." She stood at the touch tank and let a horseshoe crab walk across her fingers, and she laughed without covering her mouth. She did not need a photographer or catering for 30 or her name in glowing letters on a 4-foot screen. She needed her father beside her and a building full of water and creatures and the simple certainty that nobody was going to hand the day to someone else while she watched from outside. That evening, back at the apartment, Iris was in her room, reading with Pepper the octopus under her arm, and I stood in the kitchen looking at the invitation taped to the refrigerator. The glitter had dulled from weeks of kitchen light and cooking steam. The crayon jellyfish were fading where the paper had been folded and unfolded too many times by small hands that kept reaching for it. It was still the most important thing on the wall. It was proof that a 9-year-old girl had sat at a table and drawn 15 jellyfish because she believed her birthday was worth celebrating. She was right. Lester's kitchen still had the blank card by the salt shaker. Keith's house was quiet in a way that had a name neither of them wanted to use. Gloria was planning Thanksgiving with a new seating chart, and 2 cousins had already asked why Lester was not at the head of the table. My refrigerator had 1 piece of blue construction paper on it and nothing else. The apartment was small, and the furniture was secondhand, and the purple dress was hanging on the back of Iris's door with a water stain from the Ray exhibit. Everything I owned fit in those 2 rooms. Everything that mattered had been there the whole time. Thank you for listening to Family Secret Tales. If this story stayed with you, subscribe and leave a comment. Tell me what you would have done at that front desk.